The slap came before the breath. Eleanor Wynne, billionaire, founder, the woman who had once fired 400 people in a single email, stood with her palms still raised in front of a man in a worn jacket. A man she had once promised forever. A man whose name she had quietly erased from every record her empire had ever been built on. If stories like this stir something inside you, subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment below before we go deeper. Because this story does not end the way Eleanor Wynne planned. The grand ballroom of the Helix Hotel, 200 guests, crystal chandeliers, cameras in every corner. The annual Wynne Foundation Charity Gala, the most photographed night of her year. Marcus Cole didn't move. His cheeks stung like fire, but he didn't flinch. He'd made a promise to himself a long time ago, the night Eleanor had thrown him out with nothing but a cardboard box and a 4-week-old baby in his arms, that she would never, ever see him break. "Eleanor," he said, just her name, steady. "Don't speak to me." She flicked her wrist toward security without looking. "Remove this man. He's clearly intoxicated. Or worse, a stalker." Behind Marcus, half hidden by his leg, a little girl in a faded blue dress clutched the hem of his jacket. 8 years old, brown hair, eyes that looked just like the ones staring down at her father right now. Sophie didn't cry. She had learned a long time ago not to cry in public. Security stepped forward. Marcus lifted a hand. "I'm leaving. I just needed one thing. My daughter needs a surgery. The specialist who can do it is in this building tonight, Dr. Patel. You invited him. I only needed 5 minutes of her time." Eleanor laughed. That laugh had been on the cover of 3 business magazines. Cold, clean, practiced. "You came to my gala," she said, "to ask me for a favor?" She tilted her head, looking him up and down. "Marcus, you had your chance. You had 10 years of chances. You chose to be this." She gestured at his jacket, his scuffed shoes, the small girl tucked behind him. "You chose poverty. You chose weakness. You chose to be nobody." A few guests shifted their weight. Some looked at their champagne. Some looked harder. Nobody stepped in. "I'm not asking for money," Marcus said quietly. "I'm asking for permission to speak to a doctor. Her name is Sophie. She's 8. There's a hole in her heart, Eleanor. A hole in her heart." The phrase landed in the room like a dropped glass. Eleanor didn't blink. "Then take her to a public hospital, like everyone else does." "He already did," said a voice from the back. It was the maitre d', tall, white-haired. He had worked that ballroom for 22 years. He had watched a man with a backpack and a baby come to those doors 4 times now. 4 times he had been given orders from Eleanor's office, directly, not to let Marcus Cole pass the lobby. 4 times he had obeyed. 4 times he had wanted to quit. "He came here 4 times, the maitre d' said. 4 times I had to turn him away. 4 times I told him there's nothing I could do. The order came from her office. His name is on a list, ma'am. His daughter's face is on the list." Eleanor's smile didn't waver. Something behind her eyes flickered for a second. Then it was gone. Her assistant, Victor Hale, polished, tall, always half a step behind her, leaned in. "Eleanor, the Reuters crew is filming. Smile for the cameras. The man is being handled." Handled. The word Victor used when a person stopped being a problem. Marcus looked at Victor. The same Victor who had once worked for him, in the garage on the prototype. The same Victor who had copied Marcus's algorithm onto a thumb drive one weekend and walked it to Eleanor's office at 11 p.m. The same Victor who had signed the NDAs later, the ones that scrubbed Marcus Cole's name off every patent, every byline, every email trail of Wintech's first 3 years. Victor didn't look back. Victor had learned a long time ago not to look back. "Marcus," Eleanor said, softer now, almost pitying. "You still don't understand. You were never the algorithm. You were the mistake I made before I became what I am." Sophie tugged her father's coat. "Papa." He looked down. "What is it, baby?" "Can I say something? Just one thing?" "Sophie, not now." "Please, Papa, just one thing." He hesitated. Eleanor watched with the bored, glossy amusement of a woman who had already won this war a decade ago. Sophie stepped forward, small, trembling, holding the worn leather locket she wore every single day since her father had put it around her neck on her 4th birthday. She looked up at Eleanor Wynne with her father's brown eyes and her mother's sharp cheekbones. "Mom?" The room went silent. "You're wrong." Eleanor's smile cracked. "Excuse me?" "You're wrong," Sophie said. Her voice shook, but she didn't stop. "You said Papa was nobody. You said he chose to be nothing. But Papa taught himself medical terminology so he could read my doctor's reports. Papa works 3 jobs so I can go to a school where the other kids have 2 parents. Papa sleeps 4 hours a night so I can sleep 8. She opened the locket. Inside was a tiny, faded photograph. 2 young people on a beach, smiling, holding hands. The girl was unmistakably Eleanor Wynne. The boy was unmistakably Marcus Cole. Eleanor's face went white. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "Papa kept it," Sophie said. "He told me my mother died when I was a baby. He told me she was brave and kind. He told me she loved me very much. He told me she was in the sky." She closed the locket gently. "He lied, Mom. He lied so I wouldn't have to grow up knowing I was thrown away." Something in Eleanor's throat moved. Victor stepped forward, hand outstretched, already scripting the dismissal. "Ma'am, I'll have the girl taken to the car. She'll get water. Everything will be—" "Don't touch her." Eleanor said it before she knew she was saying it. Victor froze. He had never heard that tone from her in 12 years of working at her elbow. Sophie looked at her mother's hand, the hand that had just hit her father in front of 200 people, and something in her face changed. Not anger, not pleading, something older than both. "I have a hole in my heart, Mom," Sophie said. "And Papa said if I ever needed a miracle, I should ask the sky. But you're not in the sky anymore. You're standing right here. And you just slapped the only person who ever loved me." Cameras flashed. The Reuters crew zoomed in. Eleanor's publicist lunged forward, trying to block the shot too late. The photo of Sophie holding the locket was already being beamed across 7 newsrooms. A man at the bar lifted his head. Gray hair, reading glasses pushed up. He'd been a tech journalist in another lifetime. He had been one of the last people to write a long-form piece about the original founding of Wintech, back when it was just a garage in San Jose. His article had carried Marcus Cole's name in the byline. He stood, slowly. "Wait a minute," he said. "Marcus Cole. I know that name." The room turned. "I covered Wintech's first patent in 2014, the face recognition routing system. Half the original patent filings list Marcus Cole as co-inventor. The other half, the half the public has seen for a decade, list only Eleanor Wynne. Heads swiveled back to Eleanor. "That's not possible," Eleanor said. "I built this company from nothing. I built it in my own apartment. I built it with my own—" "You built it on my work," Marcus said. His voice was still calm, still quiet, still the same voice it had always been. The voice that had never once raised itself at her, even when she had screamed at him across a kitchen table at 2 a.m., accusing him of suffocating her potential. "I built the prototype in our kitchen while you slept," Marcus said. "You took the prototype to Victor. Victor cleaned my name off every file, every patent, every email. Victor's been doing it for 12 years, Eleanor. I still have the originals. I kept them. Every email, every signed document, every NDA Victor made me sign at 3 a.m. in a parking garage because Sophie had just been born and I was halfway to the hospital." Sophie turned her small head toward Victor. "You made my papa sign papers with his hands shaking," she said, "because I was crying in the next room." Victor didn't answer. Victor had stopped being able to answer about 3 seconds after the locket came out. Eleanor's husband, her current one, the polished investment banker who had spent the evening smiling for cameras, looked at her sideways. He had invested $12 million of his own reputation into a company whose founding myth might be a lie. "Eleanor," he said, "tell me this isn't true." She didn't answer. "Tell me you didn't erase a father from your daughter's life to sell a brand story." She still didn't answer. 3 of her board members, clustered near the dessert table, were whispering. 2 of them were already on their phones. The Reuters push alert had just landed on every major financial terminal. Wynn CEO's estranged daughter seen at gala. "Mom, you're wrong." By morning, it would be a headline. By Monday, her stock would begin to drift. By the end of the quarter, a class action would be filed by every early WinTech contractor whose name had also disappeared from the records Marcus was quietly assembling in the folder inside his backpack. But none of that mattered yet. What mattered was Sophie. Eleanor Wynn, the woman who had closed acquisitions in 48 hours, who had once told a Forbes interviewer that regret is just a tax the weak pay. Eleanor Wynn slowly lowered herself to one knee in front of her daughter. The crowd drew a sharp breath. Eleanor didn't speak for a long time. "Your eyes," she finally said. "They're the same as the night you were born." Sophie didn't move. "I held you for 9 hours the night you came into the world," Eleanor whispered. "You had a tuft of black hair, and you screamed and screamed. Marcus kept saying, 'She's perfect, Eleanor, she's perfect.' And I said I wasn't ready." Her voice thinned. "And I ran." She reached out, stopped. Her hand hovered in the air between them. "I told myself I left because he was holding me back. I told myself 100 times. Every time I signed a deal, every time I hit a number, every time I saw your photo in his desk drawer when he didn't know I was looking." "How did you see his drawer?" Sophie asked. "I never stopped watching," Eleanor said. "I never stopped." Sophie looked at the hovering hand, the hand that had struck her father in front of 200 people 15 minutes earlier. She didn't take it. "Papa," she said, "can we go home now?" Marcus nodded. He took his daughter's free hand. He bent down and picked up his worn backpack, the same backpack he had carried through 4 hotel lobbies, and the folder inside it pressed against his shoulder. The folder with the original patents, the original emails, the original signatures. He didn't threaten Eleanor with it. He didn't need to. She saw it. She knew exactly what it was. He walked past her, slow, steady. His shoes were still scuffed. His jacket was still old. His daughter was still holding his hand. He stopped at the door. Henri, the maitre d', opened it without a word. Marcus. He turned. Eleanor was still on her knees. Her husband was already 10 steps behind her, on the phone with his own lawyers. "I don't know how to fix this," she said. "Then don't fix it," Marcus said. "Just let Dr. Patel see my daughter." A long pause. "She'll see her tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. Bring the original medical records. No cameras, no press, just her." Marcus nodded once, the same way he had nodded the night Sophie was born, when Eleanor had asked him to name their daughter, and he had said, "Sophie." And she had asked why, and he had said, "Because it means wisdom, and she's going to need all of it." Sophie looked over her shoulder as they reached the door, just once. "Mom?" Eleanor held her breath. "I forgive you. Papa says forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's so you don't have to carry them around inside you anymore." She paused. "But I'm not calling you Mom yet." The door closed behind them. The room stayed silent for 6 full seconds. Then Eleanor stood, slowly. Her knees were shaking. The cameras caught it. The footage would run for 3 weeks straight on every business channel and tabloid in the country. Victor tried to hand her a glass of water. She didn't take it. She looked at Henri, the only man in the room who had tried 4 times to do the right thing. "What's your name?" she asked. "Henri." "Henri. The next time a man with a backpack and a little girl comes through your doors, you let him in. Without calling my office. Without asking why." "Yes, ma'am." "And, Henri." "Yes?" "Forgive me anyway." She walked off the ballroom floor, her husband following at a careful distance, her board members watching. Her carefully constructed empire beginning, in that exact moment, to crack in ways that no PR firm would ever fully patch. Dr. Patel saw Sophie the next morning at 9 a.m. sharp. The surgery was scheduled for the following Tuesday. Marcus Cole never asked Eleanor Wynne for a single dollar. Not then, not later, not once. The folder stayed closed until a federal subpoena opened it for him. Some legacies are not built on stock prices, on patents, on magazine covers. They're built on the small hands that still reach for you in the dark, long after you've stopped deserving it. So, if your mother forgot you, would you forgive her for the empire she built on top of you? Tell me in the comments.